Hey, what do you like best about God? I know, you're like, what? Well, this is a series that we're doing, Bless the Lord, O my soul. And I want you to think for a moment, what do you like best about God? And if you were to ask me that question, I would be like, best. I mean, I have like top 3, top 5, but there's a lot that I love about God. And when I was growing up, we used to sing the song, Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me, bless his holy name. And we would sing it. I'm not singing it for you because I want you to keep watching and listening. And if I sing, you probably would turn it off, like, no. But I think that there's tremendous things that God does, tremendous blessings in our life. And bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me, bless his holy name. This actually comes from a psalm, Psalm 103. And this is a series that we're working on now for this month, Bless the Lord, O my soul. And in this chapter, Psalms 103, the psalmist begins, and this is the very first verse, Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me, bless his holy name. And then he proceeds to say, Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget none of his benefits. Well, if I'm really honest with you, sometimes I'm like, that's not right. I ignore that part, that's not important, that's irrelevant. Because I always have had this mindset that I want to make sure that I'm connecting with God. The motive of my heart in connecting with God is relationship and intimacy and connection, not just what I can get from God, right? So I've had this idea in my mind to seek God's face, not just God's hand. And I've always had the thinking in my heart that I don't want to turn God into a vending machine. You know, type in A7 and you get Lay's potato chips. And I don't want to turn God into like a credit card swipe, tap and you pay. I have a bigger appreciation for God and intimacy and connection. But when I read this verse in Psalm 103, verse 2, Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget none of his benefits. And when I have found myself forgetting his benefits, because I've focused so wholly, entirely on the intimacy and the connection. And the benefits are consequential, of course, but I find it interesting that the psalmist says, don't forget. It's an imperative. It's a command. Don't forget any of his benefits. And as you're thinking about this, I think all of us in our lives, we have various seasons and times where we see our relationship with God as deep and intimate and connected. And then there are times there's kind of ebb and flow. You have seasons in your life where you don't necessarily sense God as deeply, as richly. And sometimes that can be a challenge, because you're like, ugh. And some of it's related to us, some of it's circumstantial. I know that fundamentally God doesn't change, and God's heart towards us is always a posture of love and wants intimacy and connection. That is always God's heart from ground zero. But I think we also have to appreciate that there are benefits to walking with God. There are upgrades, there are upticks from walking with God, from being close, from being connected. And so in this psalm and in this series, we're going to be looking at some of these benefits. So that was why I asked you at the very beginning, the very first question, what are some of the things, what do you most like about God? And I think for myself, I go back over my life and I reflect kind of backwards, and inventory. And I think for me, I appreciate how God is always consistent and always steady. And from back when I was little tiny, and I'm a pastor's kid, so I grew up meandering, roaming the halls of church. When I was 3 and 4 years old, I had the run of the whole church during the weekdays because I'd go with my dad to work, and it's just I would run around. But I remember sensing God as I meandered the church. I would go into the sanctuary, and I would sense God in the sanctuary just during a weekday, like, 10 in the morning or whatever. Nobody's around, not even the janitor. Nobody's cleaning. Nobody's in the room. But I sense God. And I remember being in the sanctuary. And there's certain areas where I was like, when I was little, I was like, I feel God more here. And this is really, and I would sit and be present with God in that moment. And so I think probably for me, the thing I appreciate the most about God is the consistency. As I knew God as a little girl, little tiny. And then I can see God's fingerprints all the way through. That consistency, that steadiness. And I remember there was a time when I walked away from God and I came back and I felt God really explain to me and show me that God was always present with me, even though I didn't feel or recognize God being present with me. That consistency, that steadiness. And so as you think about your life and think about what do you most like about God, what do you most appreciate about God, then as we think about this, bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget none of his benefits. And you know, one of the things I'd like to do in this series is I'd like to give you some ideas on how to bless the Lord, right? I mean, this is the imperative that we read consistently. How can we bless the Lord? Here is one idea on how we can bless the Lord. I'm going to give you a different idea for each episode in this series. But one of the ways that we can bless the Lord is by creating a gratitude list. Hey, it's a joke break. Hold on just a second. I know. And I wore my shirt today just to encourage you with all of the fantastic joke breaks. So, for your joke today, what did the duck say when she bought lipstick? What did the duck say when she bought lipstick? She said, "Put it on my bill." I know, pretty bad. But of course, next week will be so much better. Think of the things for which you are thankful, that who God is in your life and what God has done. Creating a gratitude list. And you can go back and you're like, where would I start? Well, a simple place is just start with yesterday. And look for God throughout your day yesterday. Make a list, maybe, and not just a mental list, maybe write it down because that gives it some permanence. And I think that's one of the ways that we can bless the Lord. Thank you so much for helping me here. Thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you so much for this interaction. Thank you so much for helping me be aware of you in this situation. And making a gratitude list is one of the ways that we can bless the Lord, O my soul. So I think this is going to be a really powerful series for you. Looking forward to connecting next week because we're going to explore some of the benefits. What are the benefits that we can experience that we can bless the Lord and recognize, oh, this is God's presence in my life? We're going to find out what 2 of those benefits are next week.